I hate to bring this up, but I think we need to bring it up. You know, if there weren't so many cutaway shots to Harbaugh, I could focus on the kids on the field. But this is a guy that was suspended twice, and the cheating scandal was terrible. And not only was it terrible, he lied about it.
MSNBC's Joe Scarborough, not a fan of Michigan head football coach Jim Harbaugh.
There were, if you talk to other Big Ten coaches, if you talk to other Big Ten officials, they thought Michigan got away with just, well, it got away with I don't want to say, well, they should have been banned from bowl games, or they should have had wins taken away from them. What they did was pretty deplorable, and then they got caught lying about it. So what is the legacy of Harbaugh, even with this extraordinary win last night?
I can answer that in a jiff, Joe. First, context. Assistant Connor Stalions was found to have been studying the signs of Michigan's opponents in forms that violate the NCAA's rules. He was also found to have been dressing in disguise. Central Michigan's sideline would see Stalions rocking their gear and allegedly using recording sunglasses to look at signs. This is a man who appeared to be close to Harbaugh, with the internet sleuths making note of Stalions' vicinity to the leader of the Maize and Blue.
Who is Connor Stalions? That is the now suspended Michigan staffer who is accused of running a sign-stealing operation.
The closest person on earth to defensive coordinator Jesse Minter is Connor Stalions. He's right there, and he's next to the offensive coordinator when they're on offense, and he's next to the defensive coordinator when he's on defense, which tells me he's a pretty active part of this.
Signal stealing is real. It is a definite factor in college football.
ESPN's Pete Thamel broke the story months ago.
Did Michigan acquire information while having somebody, and this is the key part, at opponents' games, previous games, off campus? You are not allowed to scout off campus in person. Now, again, if you steal the signs because you're watching TV and you figure it out, or you're standing on your own sideline during the game and you figure it out, perfectly legal.
Which was not what took place. On the legacy front, depends who you ask.
I think a great deal, because outside of 3 or 4 weeks of Coach Prime at the beginning of the year, Jim Harbaugh has been the story in college football, and it's almost all been negative other than the fact that he keeps winning and is back in the playoffs. So I think legacy is a great word to use here, Michelle. You can't lose bowl games every year, which is pretty much what Michigan has done, and this is clearly their best shot. Not a cliche, it's the truth.
Paul Finebaum said it was all on the line back at the Rose Bowl. Many pundits, from the Danny Canals, the RG3s, they all had a take, okay? But let's be clear of a few things. The Wolverines went 5-7 in the fourth and final season of Brady Hoke's tenure. They were bad, all right? That was just a few years after Rich Rodriguez was also terrible. Michigan football hadn't finished below 500 since 67. Then they hired Jim Harbaugh, and everything changed. We all know brand recognition is going to be there no matter what, whether they are good or bad. It's like Notre Dame. But the hiring of Harbaugh showed how committed they were, and also how it was instantaneous, though, of course, there were ebbs and flows. At times, people wanted his ouster. This seems traditional in sports with many fans. They win, they love you. You lose, it's a hot seat, of course. There were the rumors that they were going to let go of him. They would cut his pay in half. And then things started to turn around and get more positive, though at the time, they would not finish better than third in the Big Ten. Suddenly, everything started clicking. Their defense was incredible. Their recruiting off the charts. And then, of course, they beat Ohio State. And they beat them again and again and again, which might be the reason that Ohio State fans, aside from not going to the playoff, have soured on Ryan Day. And with all that, then Connor Stallions happened. And it seems like the game of Jenga just came falling down on this team. Wrote the Ringer, before Michigan's November 11th game at Penn State, Harbaugh's camp threatened to file a restraining order to block his suspension. The players wore free Harbaugh shirts. It was the whole America's team fiasco. Snippets of message board posts somehow made it into legal docs. More reports came out about a linebackers coach aiding in the destruction of evidence, and a booster named Uncle T provided financial backing. Michigan won all 3 games that Harbaugh was not there, including Ohio State. Then Harbaugh returned, and the Wolverines beat Alabama. And then they beat Washington, winning the national championship. But the legacy of this team is forever secure. Sure, some fans will debate the merits of this title for years to come. That's part of the story. And it's unavoidable in a sport with debate built into its very DNA. That's all sports, by the way. But other parts of the team's story are also undeniable. It restored Michigan to the mountaintop. It won with and without Stallions and with and without Harbaugh on the sideline. That is true. To dismantle Washington in the fashion that they did, obviously impressive. Washington was undefeated. Their defense, good, not great. Their offense, impeccable. And they look suspect against this team. And the defensive schemes that were drawn up to blitz Michael Penix over and over and over again. And at times it wasn't even a blitz. At times it was 3 or 4 rushers that were getting to him. Washington's offensive line let them down in this game. Regardless, how do we feel about Michigan and Jim Harbaugh winning the national championship? Steve Sarkisian, which we played in this clip, went over how sign stealing, it seems, is just a fabric of the game. It almost feels like, a pitcher doing something with the baseball to make it move more. The saying is, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. I am not dismissing what they did whatsoever. No team should be doing what they did. No team should be, or player or assistant, should be concocting a strategy in the way that they did, which they knew was wrong because of how they handled and in the end mishandled it. No one should ever resort to that in order to win. We have also seen throughout history, whether it is the Chicago Black Sox scandal, whether it is Connor Stallions, whether it is Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire, there will always be different ways that institutions and those within the parameters of those institutions try to get ahead by any means necessary. This was another example. It also does feel like, not to dismiss it, it also does feel like there are other teams that were trying to do this. We reported on that this past year as well. So how do I feel about Jim Harbaugh? I feel like he's probably going to leave now. I feel like, in the words of Kobe, job finished. Feels so. And the NFL will come calling back. There are at least 4 teams that could use his services. And I'm sure after this, there will be others who will make room.